Namaskar. This is Ravi Gupta. I am CEO and founder of Elites of Techno Media Private Limited, and I welcome all of you to the 17th edition of World Education Summit. The 16 editions of it have been held in physical venues, and this is the first edition where we are doing it virtually, which is online. And I am honored to have our inaugural session speakers here. I can see Mr. Kunal Silku, who is the Mission Director, Uttar Pradesh Skill Development Mission, Government of UP, who has joined us. Kumarji, Namaskar, welcome to you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much, and a very good one to you.
Thank you. And we have with us Mr. Venkat Sita Ram, who is the General Manager and Leader for Education Vertical Technologies India. And welcome, Venkat. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much. Good morning, all. It's a great pleasure to be here in this platform today.
Thank you. And our other speakers, Dr. Nikhil Agrawal, who is from the IIT Kanpur. He is also with us, but I can't see him right now. If
thank you a lot. Thanks a lot, Ravi. Thanks a lot for inviting. Unfortunately, I cannot start my cam. Maybe there's a problem with my Mac. But I'm so glad to see you. So glad to see Kunalji sitting here. He's our close associate, and we are working together to do some transforming work in UP.
Great. Nikhilji, may I request you, like, if you can join from your mobile so that like we can see you, that's
okay. Let me try. I'll important. You can start the proceeding, then I will log in again.
Yes, please. And our other speaker, Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani from the HSNC University, Mumbai, is joining us soon. So as we start, let me just briefly give a history of World Education Summit. This summit started from 2011 under the gracious guidance of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who was that President of India at that time, and he was our chief guest and mentor of this summit. We were very, very proud and honored to have him with us. So, and that journey we started in 2011. Right now, we are in 2020, and our aim has been to create a platform where the educators, both in the higher education and the school education space, are able to share knowledge and also to interact with the policy makers of the country, so that there is a lot of policy dialogues which happen in education, and also bringing in the industry along with the academia, so that industry, academia, and government alliances and partnerships and knowledge sharing happens. So let me request our keynote speaker of the morning, Shri Kumar Silkuji, to kindly deliver the keynote address and highlight about the education and skill initiatives which are happening in Uttar Pradesh. Kumarji, welcome.
Thank you so much, Raviji. It's really a pleasure to be here this fine morning. And it is so nice to see Nikhil sir. Nikhil sir from IIT Kanpur is helping us a lot in actually developing our ITI education structure. It's also nice to see Venkatji from Dell Technologies, and we have very nice panel members present here today. To begin with, I will start with few of the initiatives which are being taken in the skill space, and then I will move on to the education space, that how are we actually going to transition in the new education policy framework, and in the COVID scenario, what changes have been done by us. So, Raviji, can you tell me a prospective time limit in which I have to limit my address?
Sure. So, if you can speak about 10 to 15 minutes, that would be fine.
Okay.
Like 15 is the higher limit and 10 is the lower limit.
Thank you, thank you so much, Raviji. I also have to leave by 10:30 because unfortunately, meeting. See, to begin with, start with the skill space. As you know, skilling is one of the most important, one of the very new upcoming field. Skilling has not been a new thing; it has been done from past 50 years. But the requisite importance which was due to this sector has only recently been started coming to this space. In 2016, Honorable Prime Minister launched the PMKVY scheme, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana scheme, and that was a sort of game changer in this skilling space. And it tried to connect all the dots and bring in all the stakeholders under one umbrella and deliver a holistic skill education, which will be and the certificates will be accepted all across country. Before this, skilling used to happen in piecemeal structure, and every department or every some NGO or any private sector like SAP or like like Cisco, even Cisco used to do it. So they used to do their own skilling and provide their own certificates. So there was also a question of the acceptability of those certificates. Most of the times, the organization issuing those certificates were only accepting it. Other organizations were not accepting it. So all these challenges were there. The syllabus was not standard. Even for the same curricula, different bodies were teaching different courses. So it was actually for a unknown person, it was not actually clear by looking at the certificate that what is the skill set that the person possesses. So to address all these challenges, PMKY was launched in 2016. It did three main things. The first thing what it did was that it made the entire syllabus standard. It said that we will be defining the sectors and job roles, and for every sector and job role, we will be by we mean there is apex body at center level called NSDC. NSDC is a corporation which includes both government functionaries and the private sector participation, and that NSDC has been made the apex body for creating the curricula for the entire skill spaces. So now all NSDC approved NSQF aligned courses, they have a specified syllabus which is there. And any if you go to anywhere in India, if you take up the NSQF course, so you will get the same curricula. So at least the syllabus was standardized. The second very important thing which was done was that, as I told about certificates, so there was a need to have a standard system of assessments. So a system of unified assessment was created, and sector skill councils were created under NSDC, and they were mandated with the task of creating of doing assessments and actually giving certificates. And these certificates bear the symbol of NSDC, and they are valid all across country. So this one thing ensured that we cut across all the boundaries, and now even if a person has been skilled in Uttar Pradesh, he can very well get job in Maharashtra or Gujarat, because they will also accept the NSQF universal standard certificates. Even these certificates are also recognized globally, because it is a Government of India certificate. So the validation also applies to even at international locations. So this was the second thing which was done. And the third thing which was done was, it was this entire system of training, providing skill training, was completely decentralized. It was completely de-linked with the government setup, and all the private sector players and industry participants were actually invited. They were roped in for providing these trainings. So right now, if you see, there are various industry participants who actually train the students in a recruit, train, deploy model. They recruit the participants. They train the participants on their own shop floor and on their own thereafter, thereafter they also deploy them, they also employ them in their own industry. So this was happening earlier also. If a person has to be employed in the industry, there used to be a on job training of maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, and uh, within that time the company used to also teach the corresponding candidate and also pay them salary. What has happened with this initiative is that while the company still trains the candidate, but the company gets the entire reimbursement of the training cost from the government side. It's a pretty decent amount. It's around 20,000 rupees we provide for one student for a period of around 3 months of training. So it's a decent amount which any industry partner gets. So it's a win-win condition for both the industry participants and the candidates. So this models are all these models are there. Then we also have training partners who are not self-employers, who basically specialize only in the training space, and they provide trainings to the candidates, and thereafter they ensure almost minimum 70% placements of the candidates in various industries. So that is also happening. So even if a government body wants to come and wants to train, then they also panel with us as GTPs, as government training partners, and they can also provide, but they also have to come and follow the same norms which is there for either for Flexi or for TP. The same norms apply for GTP also. So it actually democratized the entire training space, that now anybody who is interested in working in the skilling space can come over and they can train. There are no rigid structures or boundaries. As the syllabus is made by NSDC, and NSDC consists of 51% private entities, so this has provided the much needed dynamicity and agility in the syllabus structure. If an industry's requirement is changing, immediately that gets reflected in the NSQF aligned courses. Maybe today, if COVID, because of COVID, there is some change required in healthcare sector skill council's syllabus. So that will be done today, and the courses beginning from tomorrow will incorporate the new structure, the new system, which has come up with this new structure of NSDC, SSCs, and this entire privatized TP structure. So this is all about how skilling happens in all across in country, as well transition to the NEP structure. In the new education policy, as you see, skilling has been given a very prime role, and it has been said that skilling has to be introduced right from class 6 onwards. Even a child studying in class 6 to 12 has to be given skilling. Right now, our skilling was not targeting education institutions. They were primarily meant for the people seeking for employment or who has dropped out from the school, because employment was an inherent part of our skilling initiatives. The training partners had to compulsorily provide employment to at least 70% of the participants. But this system has been changed in the new education policy. And even though the old target audience will remain to be there, we will be targeting the people who are dropouts or who need skilling for employment. But a new dimension has been added, which is the school and college education. So for 6 to 8, the NEP mandates that there should be a 10 days bagless period, and in that bagless period, exposure should be given to all the students for different vocations happening in their vicinity. So let us say if a child is studying in Muradabad, so he's basically shown the brass industries in and around Muradabad. Or if he is studying in Bhadohi, he is shown the carpet industry of Bhadohi or Mirzapur, so on and so forth. And not only these specific big ODOP trades, even a small, like like the computer operator, beautician. So these kind of more universal kind of trades can also be shown to these kids, and basically they get an idea because now as you see, even so many startups are coming up. Nikhil sir will be I think discussing this and maybe adding a lot. IIT Kanpur is doing a lot in these things. A lot of startups are actually coming up. Somebody is making dhoop batti, somebody is making agarbatti, somebody is actually delivering food and using this technology platform, Swiggy, Zomato type kind of. So you have to understand the local businesses. If you don't understand the local, it's not that only you need only low level people, people with very poor educational background to actually do this kind of businesses on field. Even if you are a tech savvy person and you want to actually bring in some tech platform and want to do some things, there are also carpenters who sit near a road and make furniture. And then you also have companies like Urban Ladder, who is now Reliance has bought Urban Ladder. So the, this is the reason why even at that young level of 6 to 8 class, introduction is given to all different vocations which are happening in the vicinity of a child, so that he gets to have a fair understanding of how business happens. And then from class 9th to class 12th, we will be employing hub and spoke model. In hub and spoke model, our training centers and ITIs will be the hubs, and our educational institutions, be it schools or be it colleges, they will be our spokes. So in the spoke, for one day in the week, they will come to the skill center and they will take the corresponding skill training. So 5 days formal education and one day skill education. So this is how hub and spoke model is going to be operated in Uttar Pradesh. A presentation has already been made, and we will be beginning up this hub and spoke model based skill education from the in the educational institutes from 1st of April 2021, from the coming academic session. This will be implemented. So this is how we will be actually adding the dimension of skilling to the formal education levels. All our 9th to 12th students will actually complete at least 2 NSQF level courses. NSQF level maybe 4 and 5. Our BTech is NSQF level 5 or 6 course. So they will be completing 3 or 4 before going into the engineering colleges if they so choose to. And even if the child does not go into engineering college, if he joins a simple college doing his BA or BSc for that matter, at that level also he can join various NSQF level 5 or 6 aligned courses and complete his skill education. And now it is a mandatory subject, so that will be included in the formal curricula by higher education and by secondary education, and proper credits will be given to the kids. So this is how in future the skilling is going to adapt to the NEP framework, which is being discussed. And the last thing which I want to discuss is the policy framework regarding COVID. As we see with the coming of COVID, the digital technology has played a very important role in actually keeping us connected and letting the business go on. Had this technology platform not been there, we could not have imagined how our lives would have been and how the economy would have gone into haywire without this digital medium. Even today also is example of is a very good example of this technology platform. So now we are actually trying to see that how we can actually bring in skilling also in the online space. Because as you know, skilling is a very challenging thing to be given online. Formal education can be provided in an easy fashion. It can be given in the online platform. Computer science courses can be taught very easily on the online platform. But when we talk about such kind of skills which requires hand dexterity, or which requires proper machines familiarity, so that is a very challenging task, that how to provide online kind of platforms for our kids. So various models are being explored, and we are actually partnering with various industries partners also. We are employing a sort of hybrid model in which we are saying that, okay, if we cannot completely convert the course to online mode, let us do a hybrid model. Let us keep few essential things only to the lab concerned thing, and let us bring up the remaining part which can be done online through the online mode. The other, so this is one mode which is being seriously looked into, and NSDC is looking into, and very soon they are going to actually define, as I have told, that the syllabus making body is NSDC. So very soon they are going to come up with these kind of proposals, and they will be actually specifying sectors and job roles in which this kind of hybrid learning can be given. So it will have two benefits. One benefit will be that obviously in the COVID scenario, which maybe persist for maybe for one more year, it will there. And in these 1 years, it's not just COVID. We don't know if if such kind of situation will not arise later. We had some other Zeta virus or something coming. So then basically this has changed our lives forever. So in these kind of courses, there are two advantages. One advantage is that while we will be addressing the digital media, we will also be increasing the reach and expanse. It is not possible to open physical centers at every place, but the online, our digital connectivity has a deep penetration. So our reach and expanse will increase a lot by adopting to this digital technology. The other thing which is being looked into is the use of maybe 3D cameras or virtual lab platforms. So there are few of the job roles which actually can be provided through this kind of high-end technological framework, and we are in consultation with Cisco, with SAS for actually helping us, and even I guess Dell maybe also Dell can also help us a lot in actually trying to give us some models that how we can go about developing these high-end platforms. So a lot of work is also being conceived and thought on how to bring in the latest high-end technologies into the skilling space. Skilling will require much more technology interfaces and platforms as compared to formal education. So this is how the entire skilling is going to shape in the future times to come, and policies will be made accordingly. So at this juncture, I will conclude my address, and if there will be any doubts, I will be also writing the answers in the mails. So thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you once again.
Pleasure. Kunalji, thanks for highlighting various initiatives of the skill department in UP, and I'm aware that you are supposed to leave in 5 minutes. And let me welcome our keynote speaker, Niranjan Nandani ji also. Namaskar, sir. Thanks for joining.
Hello.
And Nikhil ji, we can see.
Yeah, finally,
am I
my
audible?
iPad has
Thank you.
worked. So some technology is working.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible. So, Kunalji, before you leave, I think I will just request Venkat from Dell to
Raviji, am I audible?
briefly. Yes. Kunalji, are you asking? Like, I think I can. I have lost Kunalji here again. Take a second. So, if we have, Kunalji, you are audible. Yeah, very much audible. Kunalji. I was asking if Venkat wants to comment about how Dell can partner with the skill department in government organizations like UP. Please, Venkat.
Thank you.
Venkat,
Thank you very much,
you
Dr. Ravi, and it's been an absolute privilege. It's been an absolute privilege this morning to be amongst the dignitary of panelists here. Niranjan ji, good morning to you. So, Kunalji, I think you gave a fantastic view of what you're doing in UP. I must congratulate you on the initiatives that you're taking. I think you are embracing the digital journey faster, if I have the liberty to say that. You touched upon technology being a catalyst, and I absolutely second that. And it was very interesting to know about the hub and the spoke model that you are implementing. So, coming very straight to what Dell can do, I think we can act as a bridge between what you're doing on the content and how you're getting the content getting delivered. and where you're keeping the content, etc. So we can put all the pieces together and also bring in an innovative device in the hands of students by which they can access the content. Today, I think content is not only accessed, it is also getting created. So you need a very right innovative device in the hands of students. So Dell can contribute in many ways in that, very specific to the digital infrastructure. That's point number one. Point number two, very straight to the skilling. I think skilling, we look at it in multiple parts. It's not about upgrading the students' skills. It's to the 21st century skills, as we call it. It's, I think we lost Kunalji. Maybe I'll take a pause for a few seconds to see if he's back. Ravi, you're on mute.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think we have lost Kunalji. I think we had some connectivity issue. So
Maybe I'll hold
let's hope
back. If
if he can
he's
return
back, then I
back.
can continue.
Yes. Sure.
Ravi, I said
So
I'll hold back. Hold back.
let me. Okay. Done. Am I audible, Venkat?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. So let me request our speaker, Shri Hira Nandani ji, who is a an icon of the industry, and he's also leading a university. He's established a university, and he has established one of the biggest data centers of the country. So I think from real estate to IT to academia, so he's the ideal person who can actually talk about industry, academia, collaborations, and the vision and employability from the IT sector perspective. So Niranjanji, over to you, and we have 10 minutes for you to speak. Deliver your keynote address. So.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi Gupta. Thank you for inviting me. It's quite interesting to understand the technology platform. So I'm very happy to have Mr. Venkat over here. I also am the director on the National Skill Development Council. So I have some exposure on the skilling and the curriculum and the manner in which that has been organized. In fact, I was on the first Construction Skill Development Council when it was first created. And the concepts and all that were framed at that point of time related to construction. And now, of course, we are talking about the entire gamut. There are three platforms on which I wanted to discuss, and I'll try to keep it as succinct as possible. The first platform is the National Education Policy. The National Education Policy has given three contents or directions in which it is there. One is to communicate content. And that has been divided in various parts to say how this content is to be delivered to the people and which is the main objective for the education for the last 70 years. It was content driven, and people were required to absorb content and deliver content in examination. That was the basic focus of it. There was no scope for creativity. There was no scope for curiosity. There was no scope for passion. There was no scope for other things. And the number of directions in which education folded was very limited. So you had a few courses, art, science, commerce, law, degree, engineering, medicine, and was limited to such an extent that later on, when the pure graduation degrees came up in terms of BCom, BA, BSc, and others, they became irrelevant. And so now there are multiplicity of directions in which it has been done. And that's the first interesting part of the whole National Education Policy, which describes how at each level this content is to be delivered. However, technology will become a very important part because to be able to reach the end of the population, we need to know how this can be delivered in the remotest areas of the country. And luckily, due to COVID, I say unluckily for COVID, but luckily for our understanding of reach through technology, we are now able to reach all ends of the city, country, local villages, and hence the commitment in terms of online education has become a need and possibility. In my 14 colleges in Mumbai, we have only 45,000 students, but each and every one is online. Yes, there are drops in terms of reach. There are drops in terms of being able to do it where people drop off and the IT connectivity is not as strong as we really want it to be. But these are backed up with recording of lectures and other communications. So that itself, with data banks and other things being taken place, we are able to do it. So that's the first part, which we can do an outreach, which earlier could not be done. Of course, there is the question of how do we improve the reach and how do we provide the phone, mobile, tablet, and other things in terms of to the end of the persons. We are working towards that, both through our institutions in the private sector and also through NGOs and other factors and as CSR activity of company in order to reach to the people. So the first part of it is addressed. The second part of it is, which is what was partly mentioned by our friend from UP, and he was very clear about the multidisciplinary thought of it and the emphasis on skill development. A large amount of skill sets are not available in the normal education criteria that we are talking about, and hence we need to fill it with A skills, which he's talking about, which is the formal skills. But there are many other skills which people in education really need to take up, and those skill sets could be negotiation skill sets, it could be assertive skill sets, it could be skill sets which are not the normal skill sets that we talk about in the curriculum, but I think it becomes equally important to set skill set because it is the employers who want such skill sets to be available with the employees whom they are taking on. And these also could be as part of the system that we are now talking about in terms of how this has to be done. The next portion, which is the most interesting of all, is what we call the liberal education or the multidisciplinary approach under the National Education Policy. And we have already introduced that in the Mumbai 3 colleges in Mumbai and under the new HSNC University, which I presently head. And we are already talking about the major and minor. The minor subjects could be as distant as doing dance and music, yoga, and other things. A student of science could take up accounting, a student of arts can take up management, and so on and so forth. This kind of multi-skilling actually becomes a direction in which could bring. The other aspects of it at that level are really the fact that you could actually drop out of college and you wouldn't be considered a dropout because you would be given in the first year, you would be given a certificate. The second year of college, you'd get a diploma. The third year, you would get a degree. And if you carry out a research, then you could also get the degree in honors part of it. And second, you could have lifelong learning. And I think that is the most interesting part of it at all. And I think we would like Dell Technologies to really bring that out in a much more serious way than it has been done. It's very lightly taken at this point of time, and it is left to many of the e-education space to do it rather than the formal education systems which exist today in the country. So you don't find the normal colleges continuing the lifelong learning, but people are expected to handle it through other courses and other things which are taken up and are not really part of the system that we need to do, and we need to bring it back into the thing. And the last point that I want to state is the credit bank system that has been done. So you can accumulate credits in various years. If you drop out of college in the first year, second year, get to a job and come back again, the credits which you will have got in the first 2 years, along with the other certificate courses that you can take during the time of when you're out of college, also get further credits into that, will be able to get you a degree much easier in later parts of your life. And you could pick up different subjects and get different types of degrees that can be done. So a multidisciplinary approach, as we call it, or liberal education approach, as they call it, is something that we need to do. But the backbone of it, if you really want to reach the entire gamut of people in a better way, and second, to be able to see that the teachers get necessary aids to bring it. For example, we have now conducted in the last 30 days examination for 12,000 students on an online basis with proctoring, which is verification that the student is not doing any cheating, etc., is followed up in a systematic through technology. Now, all this means an upgradation of technology to the next level. And if we can use technology-based education, then we will be able to do this to the poorest of poor. We have even discussed, along with Mr. Mashelkar, who now heads the National Education Committee for Maharashtra. And one of the things which we have talked about is mentoring and mentoree colleges or schools. And what we plan to do is that a good college, let's say, for instance, an IIT or one of the top colleges in Bombay like HR, could adopt or mentor other colleges and schools in the remoter areas through technology-based thing, and also have a database of lectures and others which could be resourced by the adoptee colleges or schools. And that is how we would like to get education to the next level. So the platform of technology becomes extremely important if we can do it. It's already happening. However, the structures are very not clear, not transparent, and different companies and different people are giving different platforms with different facilities at different points of time. It is extremely confusing to the education space as to which really should one adopt and invest into. I'm not wanting money from people, but I do need guidance as to what would be the right technology. Because I don't want to invest into technology. I don't mind investing 10, 20 crores. But I don't want after 1 year to be told that whatever you have invested in is obsolete or now is available free of cost on a platform. That would be quite ridiculous for us to understand. So what we really need is to be educated in the technology space in such a way that it could be most efficient and could reach right at the ends of our country, so that we can have not just an education policy, but an education revolution in India. And we bring back what Nalanda did to India for 1500 years. It was the center of teaching of the entire world. Just like IT people are working in the space of IT and ITES through the entire world, including the United States of America, I'm hoping that even in the education space, we should take the leadership into it. But without technology, we will not be able to do it. With technology and the educators that we have on the grassroots level, I'm certain that if we can collectively work together in order to set up this platform, we could be a world educator in education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for highlighting this aspect of education in this digital age, and of course, how has COVID come as a transformation opportunity. And let me request our speaker from Dell to highlight how is IT can transform. And Nikhilji, I'm aware that you will leave at 11, and we are also supposed to close this session sharp at 11. So we have 10 minutes for Venkat and your keynote address, Nikhilji, after that. So Venkat, we have one of the leading private universities here under Niranjanji, and we have IIT of Kanpur leader of Nikhil Agrawalji here. So if you can highlight that how Dell can collaborate with academia and of course the industry and bring in the new vision in education. Over to you, Venkat.
Okay, thanks, Ravi. That's a great question, but I fully second Niranjanji on what he said. I think you're doing a fantastic work. Really nice to know that all your students are online today, so they're not deprived of technology, and I think they are getting themselves prepared. Niranjanji, I would like to pick up the point that you raised, which is very specific to lifelong learning. I think lifelong learning is mandatory. When students or children go to school, they think learning is till class 12th. Exam lik liya, khatam ho gaya, so I will take a breather. And then they start thinking about the next level later, higher education later. And then after higher education, the focus shifts on completely about employment and how do I manage the employer to get into a job. these are the three facets we typically see. What technology has done is it has first allowed early education, early skilling. I think sometime back, Kunalji talked about it. Standard 6 today, we with NEP, as you rightly said, and you are behind NEP, Niranjanji. So I think we are encouraging students to start looking at learning basics of coding. And technology is available, content is available. So from Dell, we can bring those content, coding, robotics, AR, VR at a very early stage so that you can get access to the content wherever it is and with the right device. That's a big role that we play. So what that does is when you start learning early, then you start getting yourself familiarized beyond the academics. That sets a platform. As you start building on that platform slowly and steadily, you are looking at the employability of opportunity that's there. That's when the creative skills, and you very rightly mentioned the skills of 21st century, thinking, communication, problem skills, cognitive skills, all of these are extremely essential. Now, are these written in the curriculum? Answer may be yes and no. That's where again, industry collaboration makes it even more critical that we can bring in those capability. Example, some of our staffs today go to institutions and we do a role of being mentors, train the trainer. We train teachers, not just students. So in terms of making these skills inclusive, it is important to even train the teachers, not just the students, because the fulcrum of the learning comes from teachers, right? So therefore, train them, get them ready on technology, get them ready on these new skills. Then those skills are further imparted to the students. Industry collaboration also allows students and teachers to get access to the real world of the future. What is happening? Can I get hands-on access? Can I see a demo? Can I get into a virtual world and see how things are getting driven? Now, more than often, those are things that happen when somebody takes a job. For example, when I'm in the job, the amount of tools or access or connectivity options that I have is exemplary. If I'm at home and I'm learning, I may not have that, right? May not afford that. But that's where these things have to be encouraged by putting all of this in the cloud, and things like 5G will enable connectivity anywhere. So leverage of all of these new technologies, and Niranjanji, you rightly mentioned, things get obsolete so fast. I'm ready to invest, but what after 1 year you come and say it's available just like that, or it's absolute. Very, very important to keep tab of rapidly changing advancements that are coming our way. And then I think that's where we also play an important role on advising our customers on the investment that you make for today will not immediately get obsolete, but you can continue to take the benefit of that investment for a slightly medium term. Yes, things are changing fast. Gone are days where you invest and look for a change after 7-10 years. People are looking at changing every 2-3 years. At our side, we change every 1 year, every 6 months. We kind of always see how we can go past the speed at which things are happening in the industry, because at the end of the day, it is fast which is going to keep industry or businesses ahead of slow. It's not big or small. Startups have come and blurred the complete ecosystem, right? They're saying I can come and do things like this, and the scale is global. I start here, but I can reach anywhere in the world. Online internet is enabling that. So I think it's a combination of all of these things that we bring together. We can play an advisory role in helping institutions and businesses understand what is to be done, and how do I get the benefit of these technology investments, and how do I see the returns. I think these are very, very important. It needs a consultative approach. Now, here is where we will be keen to work with you. I will post this conversation, get back to my colleagues and tell them that this was an ask from you. And I can see Dr. Nikhil also. So I think there are plenty of tech skills that are available from Dell that we can bring in and showcase and see how we can work together to foster this journey. So in summary, I think it's a start with the early education, imparting teacher training, cognitive skills, industry readiness skills. Combined with that, and if we make it a lifelong learning practice with the leverage of emerging technologies, I think we are going to make a significant impact to the economy of our country. I think that's clearly the vision of NEP, right? You want more and more technology advancement, and India should be seen as a leader, as a tech leader amongst the top 2 in the world. So we have a great platform. We have a great ecosystem in place. It's time that all of us come together and see how we can enable this. Hope I could cover some of the points that you had made, Niranjanji. Back to you, Ravi.
Thanks,
Yeah, we
Venkat.
look forward to an association with Dell so that we come to know what exactly is possible for us to do. And also the fact that we need to really do an outreach, which is extremely important for us to understand, because the states are very keen now to do it. And by enabling technology, we may be able to fast forward education to the poorest and the more remotest corner of our state and country. And I think if we can actually achieve that through technology, which is the only way that we can possibly do it, it would be very interesting and fine for me to hear. Thank you.
Yes, completely. Thank you. Look forward to connect.
Thank you, Niranjan sir and Venkat ji. And let me request Nikhil Agrawal ji from IIT Kanpur, and who is like leading the startup initiative of IIT Kanpur. And Nikhil ji has been a part of the Andhra Pradesh government, and he was also earlier teaching at Cambridge University. So he has a multi-faceted background. So his views about transformation in the higher education which is happening, and how do you see the future? Nikhil ji, over to you.
So thanks a lot, Ravi ji, Niranjan ji, Venkat ji, and Kunal ji, who unfortunately is not here, but we are. So I'd like to bring a couple of points related to innovation, that how innovation happens, and then what is not happening. I know everybody is quite upbeat about what is happening, but I also like to give a challenge to everybody, particularly companies like Dell and universities like HSNC and organizations like ELETS, that what could we do next? And this is something which we at IIT Kanpur has taken up. So the chaos always creates innovative opportunities. So first there is a chaos, there is a great calm, then there is innovation happen, then there is adaptability. We have seen that in World War, and we have seen in 9/11, we are seeing it now. So chaos happened, everybody was absolutely uncertain what is going to happen. Then there was a calm, people were scared, people were staying at home. Then innovation started happening, and suddenly we are seeing the adaptability. Within 30 days span of time, there are 20 vaccine candidates which are getting tested, and there's adaptability, whether they are proven or not, but we are adapting to the situation. Same thing goes with the digital learning, same thing goes with everything. At the same time, I would like to give a challenge to all my colleagues who are hearing me today. We are quite upbeat about the digital learning and adaptability of technology in education. But during my PhD time, I have also done my PhD in appropriation of technology. So I'd like to bring in some of the ideas there. Technology is also a great discriminator. Though technology has able to provide us an opportunity to come together, today I'll give you certain statistics. As per the 2020 estimates, there are 40 crore kids. India is one of the youngest nation in the world. We know that we have more young people than the older people. 65% of the young population is below 35. We all know that. 40 crore kids are eligible for primary, secondary, and higher education. Now, this particular statistic will surprise you. 91%, that is 32 crores of them, will not have access to education this year because they don't have laptops, because technology is an enabler. As I have said, technology is also a discriminator. Technology costs. So Dell computer, the cheapest Dell computer will cost 20,000 rupees. The cheapest Baizu or Coursera or any other will also cost something. So there is a great need that we need to come up with solutions so that we can be inclusive. What I'm more concerned, particularly as an educationist, is that COVID will not take us back many years. Economy will not take us back many years. But the impact of not teaching our kids for next 1 year will be there for next 50 years. Because in learning pathway, you fall behind. So we have to find methods for that. How do we ensure that we don't leave anybody behind? We have to take everybody's together. So that is a challenge which I am giving to all the educators who are listening to me. And one of the through this forum, I would like to make an appeal to everybody that please make sure, if you are, and particularly to people like Niranjan ji, he said 12,000 students are studying in online medium today. So my request to you, sir, would be that can you enable 1,200 more who don't have access to the education, who don't have access to computer, who don't have access to technology? Can you bring them in some way or other? So there is very interesting initiative that we started, and I got inspiration from IITs. IIT Bombay has done it. IIT Kanpur has done it. We have approximately 6,500, 7,000 students. You would be surprised to know more than 10% of the students does not have access to technology because they come from a poor background. So because of the IIT alumni, IIT Kanpur has raised 3 crores for 600 students. We have provided 50,000 rupees kit, and we send it to the villages and homes all across India. IIT Bombay has done, I believe, more than 5 crores of that distribution. Now, this is what IITs can do. This is what the other richer institutions or other able institutions where the alumni is rich can do. But what else we can do? So the another initiative that we have started, some of the people and educationists from within our community started, called Digital Dan. We are saying that we do Dan all the time. Like Indians have a great heart. We do Dan in temples. We do the Dan and knowledge Dan is considered to be the great Dan. So we are saying, rather than doing charity, normal charity, do education charity. Start giving kits to poor kids and 1 laptop per family. So if you have more than 1 laptop in a family, the father will sell the laptop and make money, because 25,000-30,000 rupees he will make per laptop. But is a 1 laptop per family, even 2-3 kids are able to study. That is a great charity. And it is possible that because a poor family living in a more closer communities, more closer places, they will share those things. I would like to draw upon the experiment which was done by Dr. Mehta many years back. Is called Hole in the Wall. I am not sure you have heard about it. In early 2000, it was Hole in the Wall. It was done in Noida and Okhla. So Dr. Mehta at that time was with an IIT. He has put up a computer in a hole in his office, and it was a slum next door, and there are many kids who came and start playing with the computer, and slowly it was demonstrated they started learning the computer, because even they don't know how to read and write. And that particular experiment has taken up with the new areas of research in learning technology, and eventually Dr. Mehta was today I think is Newcastle University. He was awarded as a TED Fellow, Global TED Fellow. So some of these experiments, and we have seen that if we give a technology to even a kid, he can play around. We know that our kids are at our home, and sometimes we proudly say that they don't know how to speak, they don't know how to walk, but they can play with our mobile phone. So why it is so? So technology has become an enabler, but at the same time, technology is non-inclusive. So we have to make sure, as a educationist, as this forum, we are here together. So my request to everybody who is joining this forum today is, make sure in the next 1 year you provide a technology input to 10 kids who does not have access to technology. This will be the bigger than that what you can do. Whatever you are doing for your university, your own job is fine, but do something else. This is something which we have taken up at IIT, and we are committed. We are bringing in new technology, new content, where like today there is Dr. Mishra who teach 56,000 students in one go for free. He got Padma Shri last year. So that kind of, like, anybody can join in. Anybody can join the physics course. So more and more people can come in. More and more people can get associated, because ultimately we know that कि ज्ञान देने से बढ़ता है, ज्ञान बांटने से बढ़ता है. And with this, I would like to stop. I know there are only 5 minutes. Ravi has to start sharp at 11. It was very nice to come over, and I would be around to listening to more sessions. Thanks a lot.
Mr.
Sure.
Agarwal, I wanted to tell you that we are already trying to do this in a much smaller way than you have suggested, but we have started it, where we are providing these kind of inputs to school students and college students. Tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow I have a meeting with Mr. Ratan Tata and also the CEO of Tata Trust in order to work towards the similar thought process which you have talked about. not exactly identical, but similar to the idea of how we can possibly reach this communication to the people. And we are trying to work and set a platform together. So we will certainly look at it. And I know I have.
So, sir, with your permission, I would request Ravi to share your contact details. I will be in touch with you. I'll seek your
Please
help
do.
with our Digital Dan initiative. People
please
like
do
to
that.
come on
And I
a bit
also,
together.
and I also would like to learn a little bit more about, because I know you are a famous person in terms of innovation and innovation platforms that you have created and startups that you have been doing. So at some point of time, maybe when I have time and you have time, we could talk about that part and how we can take up that work also.
Sure, sir. My pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And
Thank you.
Mr. Venkat, we would be very keen to speak with you because we
Yes.
are committing to distribute 10,000 kits by next academic year. So if you can subsidize some of these computers, that would be nice.
Absolutely, there's a lot that's going on. Yeah, what we are known for selling in corporates is very different to what we do for rural India. Dell has been a significant contributor there with Niti Aayog. We do a lot of work in making devices
We are saying
pervasive
that please
and
do
easily
charge money, but
accessible and
don't charge
affordable.
profit. So
Absolutely. You know where to differentiate both, right? So that's clearly there within Dell, and we are partnering with the ministry in the NEP 2020 on making technology accessible across rural. So that's seen in a different light. There's a lot of NGO, the Dell Foundation comes into picture in doing a lot of work. I mean, I really don't want to talk about it and market that here in this forum, but it is known. You see a lot of Dell initiatives happening in various states, in various districts and various villages. So we continue to do that, and we'll be happy to engage with you, Dr. Nikhil. Look forward.
thank you.
Thank you. Look forward. Thank you very much.
So I
Same here.
think we had some interesting session here, and we had great interactions, great perspective from the government, from a private university perspective, from a IIT, and from a technology provider like Dell. So again, thank you all for joining in. A great session, and I will request all the delegates to stay tuned. And our next address will be by Venkat himself, I think, the Venkat. So please stay here, and I will thank Niranjan sir and Nikhil Jaji for joining us. Amazing interactions. Thank you so much. Namaskar to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.